This is DJ Wolf Live. I gotta talk about this, guys and gals. This is something that kind of a little bit near and dear to my heart. Um, my dad untimely passed away from the very thing that Biden has cancer with now, which is stage 4 prostate cancer. Um, and the very symptoms that they talk about, uh, the cancer affected his bones, and the bones they actually become deteriorated after a while from the effects of the prostate cancer. You know how I know? Because my dad had the same thing. He was in stage 4 whatnot when he went to because he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. He would never liked the doctors. He liked and he didn't want to get the digital prostate or anything like that. All right, so let me put you guys on hold for a second here. I don't know. Man, let's start this. Anyway, I gotta check something right quick on my personal thing here. So I may have to stop the stream for a while. I'm hoping not. Well, you know what? Let me go with it. You know what? Let me check something right quick, guys. I'm a stickler for checking stuff that I think I forgot. And kind of throw me off sometimes. Oh boy. But anyway, like I said before, my dad was somebody that did not like going to the doctor. And I know when I started getting my prostate checked out many years ago, I had a doctor tell me, no joke. He was a doctor, ironically, from all places, Cleveland Clinic. Yeah, I checked his bio. He was a noted doctor. I don't know how much of a noted doctor he was, but I know he had once worked at Cleveland Clinic, the doctor I had. And I was like in maybe my mid 40s. And the doctor told me unequivocally, he said, you have to wait till you're 50 before you get your prostate exam. Exactly what he said. 50. And even then, I heard stories about guys getting prostate cancer. I've even heard about guys in their 20s getting prostate cancer. Yeah. And it was an NFL player. I think his nephew or somebody had got it. And the nephew that had died in his 20s. He talked about it. Yeah. Nephew. You know, so it ain't just in your 50s and 40s. Because I remember my dad and I talked about it years ago, how we was finding about how younger and younger people are getting all kinds of diseases that used to be old folks' diseases, what he called it. And prostate was one of them. Not anymore. You know, I had a brother-in-law, you know, who had it in his mid 40s, mid 40s, diagnosed of prostate. Sure did. So possibly. I'm going around my house possible. Anyway, I was around possible. Anyway, yeah, it ain't nothing to be playing with, folks. You know, but I understood why my dad didn't trust doctors because of he lived in the era around the time of the Tuskegee experiment was going on, where they were experimenting on random black men for drugs they wouldn't test on white men. This was years before they started doing lab rats. They were doing it on black folks. They sure did. And so that would be a reason why I understand why he didn't want to deal with doctors. I fully understand, because they still do that to this day. To tell you the truth, on certain drugs, you see all these commercials about, well, if you take this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. You can risk it happen this and this too. But it's good. That's what they say. I said, man, come on, it's crazy. Then they found certain statins, you know, with the ones that you take for blood pressure and all of that. Certain ones of those could cause cancer in your heart. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So they really haven't stopped doing that. They just do it within certain communities now. You know, least that's my theory on it. But, and then a lot of the drugs that come out with now, many of them do have side effects. A lot of side effects. Literally the commercials all the time. But anyway, so I'm not here to bash Biden. I actually feel bad, because although I didn't agree with a lot of number of Biden's policies, which I didn't. I didn't agree with the things that he didn't do as well. But I still feel bad for him. My prayers do go out to him and his family. And hopefully it'll be something that he'll be able to be treated with that'll prolong his life for a while. My dad unfortunately didn't get that opportunity. He really didn't. Well, one of the things that he was told was to get the surgery, and he told me he had got the surgery, but my dad never got the surgery. Apparently Biden didn't either. So, and that's another whole story. It is what it is, folks. That's the sad part about it. But Biden having stage 4, I think is something that they knew. And this is all I'm saying. They reported last year that they didn't find any circumstancing issues with Biden. That was actually reported a year ago. So to me, it tells me that somewhere down the line, they already knew, and he already knew he had it. You know how I know? My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer, at least when I was told about it, back around late 2017. My dad passed from it in 2019. Okay. He was getting treatment, he was getting treatment for it in 2018. That's why I said they knew that for a while. They knew he had it. They knew that. Because when it gets to stage 4, and everybody knows, if you know anything about prostate, and especially when it comes to prostate cancer, it's not a fast moving cancer. This is a cancer that takes a while to mess with your system. This is a cancer that slowly gets into you, and sometimes it goes undiagnosed. Even with from what I was told, even when you do the blood test, the PSA blood test, what they call it, because I've done it, the blood test. I think the last one I had was 2.5 or something like that. But it's just really it's the number. And here's the other thing: prostate cancer runs fast and furious in terms of who it affects the most. It affects African Americans more than anybody. African American males. So I know it runs deep in my family because I had my dad and 2 other uncles that all had the same thing. See, this is why I'm looking at this thing right here. This is one of the reasons why I do not like doing the live streams anymore. Because it's like, Keith, I don't know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, I had to tell you to speak English because I don't know what that means. Anyway, it runs deep in my family. So I had dad and 2 other uncles that all had been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and my dad and my uncle, one of my uncles, both died directly from prostate cancer. So I know likely there's a chance that I might get, if I don't already have it at some point. I mean, my last doctor's exam was in February, so I know my next one's coming up in a few more months. And that's usually, they do the digital once a year with me. But I usually get the blood tests too. So, but they do the blood test every time I go in the office. So, but the thing of it is, though, you have to get checked, guys. I know it's something that you do not want to do. I hate doing it. It only takes about a hot second. Just call it just a quick date. And I'm trying to be funny without really trying to be funny. it's really nothing burger, but it's something that you have to do. It's an unpleasant task. You ought to see what women go through when they check for breast cancer. So I'm just saying, and from stories and a couple of videos I've seen, it's as bad as this. In some cases worse, because they have to, push themselves up on a machine, and then they have to be the breasts have to be squeezed for them to take the pictures to make sure that there's no lumps. Yeah, so it's crazy. Both are bad, because if you have breast cancer, they have to take portion breast out to cut the cancer out. If you have prostate cancer, and the prostate is that bad, they gotta take the prostate out. So neither one are good. The difference is, for many guys who have it, it affects us in a very harsh way. I don't know how to describe it, but I know somebody, I know people have had it. So it's nothing to be playing with, folks, man. We gotta take accountability of our health, whether we want to or not. You ought to. You ought to think about the reasons why you do it. I think about the reason why I do it every single day. You know why I think about why I do it every single day? Because I do it not for myself, but to be around for my family. Those are the main two reasons I do it every day. Ain't no no. I'm very specific about it. Definitely do it for yourself, of course. Just saying. But I don't know, folks. It's just, like I said, Biden's diagnosis was something that was already known. I don't think they just came up with that. Oh, they just found out. They didn't just find out. Trust and believe on that. They didn't just find out about that. You better believe your bottom dollar. They didn't just find out about that. That was already kind of on the radar. At least that's my take. I'm fairly sure that it was, though. I'll be honest with y'all. I'm fairly sure that it was. I know some people probably say otherwise. If there are people who won't say otherwise. But it is what it is. All right, Keith, I ain't got time for that, man. All right, well, that's all I got for right now. This is DJ Wolf. I'm out.